At the third stroke, it will be 1:59 and 10 seconds.
Meet Tim, the talking clock, the service which day and night saves you going out to find a policeman when you want to know the time. Here at the Holborn Telephone Exchange, the clock, which cost the post office nearly £100,000 to build, has answered Londoners' voiceless queries 400 million times since it started work 17 years ago. All this electronic equipment was specially designed by post office research engineers to make the talking clock accurate to within a tenth of a second, automatically coordinated with Greenwich Mean Time signals. 17 years ago, operator Jane Kane of Croydon recorded every possible time at 10-second intervals. Today, her voice is still the one you hear anywhere in the United Kingdom when your phone call throws a light ray onto the records.
At the third stroke, it will be 1:59 and 50 seconds.
Whatever your watch says, it's the right time now to say, thank you, Tim.
Dialing Tim from any UK phone at the time set this elaborate machine running. Before this, speaking clocks were delivered by an operator sitting in front of a clock answering the phone calls and reading out the time, like you see in this photo. Of course, what you would hear live when you call the number above depends on exactly when you call. The voice, well, that's not so live. Live recorded or programmed, a speaking clock is an anachronism, but it also provides a crisp model for thinking around something quite contemporary, the interface. Jane Kane, at the third stroke, it will be 8:57 precisely. Pat Simmons, who followed Jane Kane as the talking clock, at the third stroke, it will be 7:02 and 40 seconds. And then following was a man's voice. At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Accurist will be 10:52 and 10 seconds. Each voice has a particular quality, and it's easy enough to imagine those voices as the personality, or even the design of this interface. Call the speaking clock and you're interacting with a front end, a user experience. You're given a simple, friendly face for a complex process which remains hidden. Whatever lies between is called interface. Whatever allows us to link to different elements, to reconcile them, to put them into communication. That definition was offered in 1987 by Italian critic Giancarlo Barbasito in his introduction to design interface. The book chronicled the Ovoletti typewriter corporation's early attempts at designing user controls for photocopiers, computers, typewriters, and calculators. Barbasito places this design task in a broad cultural and temporal context. Appearing opposite his introduction is a reproduction of the Rosetta Stone, offered up as kind of a original UR interface, a shared surface which facilitates communication between otherwise irreconcilable languages and cultures. The Rosetta Stone includes 3 different languages, all with the same message: hieroglyphics, Hieratic script, and the Greek alphabet. The recovery of this shared surface in 1799 allowed the deciphering of Egyptian hieroglyphs. Barbasito continues from the Rosetta Stone and to the impossibly broad scoping of the concept of interface and lands on this: a public a public clock tower in the Piazza San Marco, Venice, Italy. It's the first public clock, and it's set at the center of a merchant city, where shared time would have significant consequences for shipping and commerce. He goes on. An extremely powerful and everyday filter is the clock. The first machine made available to all from high atop a tower ready to interface humans and time. The clock tore humans away from lived time marked by natural rhythms and by the duties of seasonal social labor, and delivered into the power of measured time. Moneylender, the objective and abstract, the work time of the urban merchants, the interest of time of the moneylender, and the factory time of industry. First, the bells of the city clock tower. Later, the mill siren, erased cyclical time that moved the rhythm of the seasonal return of a certain kind of game, the ripening of a plant, the dependable rising of the sun. Cyclical time was a great exorcism of death. The moon that returns is the first dead man returning. Repetition is the life of the world. History has nothing but the reiteration of a single original event. Time is Chronos, the great premortal judge. After the arrival of the clock, all this before became a memory and a myth. Time became linear, homogeneous, empty, irreversible, cumulative, oriented towards a goal. Even modern mechanical thought prefers rectilinear motion to circular motion. Clocks mark the separation between work time, the value time of production, and free time. But today, even the physicality of the chimes of the clock tower is obscured by the digital. Information time, the absolute acceleration of the discontinuity in the contemporality of computer time. Ovoletti's first large computer, built in 1959, was named the Ela, after the colony in Magna Graecia, where, in the 5th century BC, the school of philosophy of Parmenides and Zeno was born. The Ela computer, the name itself is like saying mathematical rationality and philosophical discourse, algorithms and hermeneutics. Algorithms and hermeneutics, or in other words, a definite pattern and how things get their meaning. It's the impossible synthesis that communicative signs seek to attain. Extreme formalization of the message and infinite production of meaning. Something highly regular, repeated, with a kind of infinite production of meaning within the think of the alphabet, for example. That clock tower in Piazza San Marco has several different displays of the time. Here's a close-up of it. The central display is a round clock face that shows the months or the time of the astronomical zodiac throughout the year, as well as the minutes. The next layer up shows the Roman numerals. The Arabic numerals are large blue tiles that look like digital clock, and they flip every 15 minutes using a large wheel mechanism inside. Throughout this clock, there's play with how the time is represented and displayed, geared towards a pluralistic, cosmopolitan time, as Venice was a trading place for a myriad of cultures. How the zodiac is represented, the distinction between Roman numerals and Arabic digits, the relative scale of the clock hands are each interface design decisions. An interface is inevitably a product of its culture. It's made in a specific time and place to be used in a specific time and place and design. Decisions reflect shared conventions, assumptions, and histories from that setting. An interface now would not necessarily work 20 years in the future. Well, of course you might say, but it's not only technical consideration, but cultural ones. That might be an interface's Achilles heel. Imagine trying to explain the iPhone messages interface to someone in 1971, or even 2004 for that matter. It's simple enough, but the nuances of how it can be used would be lost on the cultural distance. 30 years in the future, it may be similarly illegible. Interface. It's an extraordinarily elastic word. Definitions from fields as diverse as chemistry, theater, fashion, and computer science describe interface as a shared boundary, a contact surface, a border condition, and a process or active threshold. All of these definitions share a central tenet. An interface is a thing itself. Its design decisions change not only what it looks like, but also how it works. And these interfaces have the possibility of conveying more than simply utility. They may also transmit a point of view. In the June 15th, 2015 issue of Bloomberg Businessweek was given over to a single text by writer and computer programmer Paul Ford. He wrote Code, an essay. A computer is a clock with benefits. They all work the same, doing second grade math, one step at a time. Tick, take a number and put it in box 1. Tick, take another number and put it in box 2. Tick, operate. An operation might be addition or subtraction on those 2 numbers and put the resulting number in box 1. Tick, check if the result is 0. And if it is, go to some other box and follow a new set of instructions. A computer's processing power is even measured by the rate of its CPU, called clock speed. If your computer is already fundamentally a clock, then clearly the telephone service we discussed at the beginning of this lecture is more of an antique curiosity than a working tool. Even a wristwatch seems like a genteel affordance when your phone, your laptop, and every message you send through these already registers the time. And in the face of all this, the Apple Watch has arrived. It's some kind of cutting edge anachronism. Well, it does have an extremely challenging interface design problem. Its touch screen is tiny. Screen real estate is limited. Batteries are finite. And fingers, they're not shrinking anytime soon. The way in which Watch OS software solves many of these interface design issues is instructive. The device's screen lights full strength only when you raise your wrist to look at it. The watch's face can be almost instantly swapped out with a strong push and a swipe. The watch reveals its full range of utility when you press the digital crown. And this pulls up the launcher, a kind of iOS home screen seen through a magnifying lens. From here, the watch fluidity transforms itself into an iPod, a mail reader, weather station, text messenger, and so on. What is interesting is not so much what the watch can do, but rather how what it can do is all packaged behind its familiar clock interface. Amid the hyperbole of the official Apple Watch design video, in which he introduces the product, Jonathan Ives describes the interface. We'll watch it now.
You know, it's driven Apple from the beginning, this compulsion to take incredibly powerful technology and make it accessible, relevant, and ultimately personal. We've designed a range of products so personal, you don't put them on your desk or in your pocket, you wear them on your wrist. And we conceived, designed and developed Apple Watch as a completely singular product. You know, you can't determine a boundary between the physical object and the software. we're introducing an unparalleled level of technical innovation combined with a design that connects with the wearer at an intimate level to both embrace individuality and inspire desire. The watch senses that you're raising your wrist and then activates the display. You see an organization of apps that, while new, is somehow familiar. Navigation is fluid and vital. Magnifying content on a small display is fundamentally important. So we've developed a whole new interface specific to the challenges associated with a product this small. The Digital Crown is a remarkable input device. It fluidly zooms into apps. It enables nimble, precise adjustment. And critically, you can use it without obstructing the display. It's also the home button. Apps are designed for lightweight interaction. Smart replies and dictation let you respond quickly to messages. Glances let you swipe through information efficiently. And pressing the button below the Digital Crown instantly shows you friends you can contact in just seconds. And with Digital Touch, we've developed an entirely new way for you to connect intimately with others. You can get someone's attention with a gentle tap. You can send a quick sketch. Or you can even share something as personal as your own heartbeat. These are subtle ways to communicate that technology often inhibits rather than enables. These apps all take advantage of the flexible Retina display.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there only because I wanted to, he's moving on to the hardware of the watch. All right, lastly, we're going to talk about the iconic Swiss railway clock, designed by Hans Hilfiger in 1944. It's graphically concise clock face with no numbers, only bold black strokes marking the hours, smaller still bold strokes for minutes, and two workman-like arms for the hours and minutes. Seconds, however, are registered by a bright red lollipop of a hand. Its distinctive form was added in 1953, and they're based on the shape of an engineer's signaling disc used to indicate when a train is clear to depart the station. The resulting clock face design is austere, specific, and exaggeratedly functional. It's so particular that Apple even borrowed it for the clock app on the iPad before being sued by Swiss Federal Railways and eventually settling on a $22.4 million licensing fee. The offending interface was removed when they updated to iOS 7. What the clock looks like is essential for this to work. Hilfiger's clock face design is typically Swiss, with minimal articulation, extreme contrast, and clearly rendered functional distinction that suggests precision, efficiency, simplicity. The bright red second hand can be seen from a distance, so you can easily scan these clocks are in sync in the train station. From here, we're going to move into talking about designing our Apple Watch ways to tell time.